Bioshock is renowned as one of the greatest games ever made for its story, characters, setting, and gameplay. While the director of Bioshock, Ken Levine, worked on the game Bioshock Infinite, 2K Games, the publisher of Bioshock, gathered a team to make a direct sequel to it, Bioshock 2. Bioshock 2 did not receive as much praise as the first game. Why? Why did the second game not receive as much recognition as the first? There's a few different reasons, but the main ones are the story and the gameplay. Bioshock opens on a plane ride, followed by the plane crashing beside a lighthouse. The player investigates and finds a sign reading, "No gods or kings, only man." They find a submarine leading them down into the sea. The player listens as a man named Andrew Ryan gives them a speech, asking, "Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow?" This line showcases the ideals of this man, saying that a man is entitled to the work they do and nothing less.
Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
He shows the player an underwater utopia called Rapture. This city, however, is not all glitz and glamour. The player enters and watches as a man is murdered by a humanoid monster, before being saved by a mysterious man named Atlas. Atlas guides the player out of the sub, and the player now has a mission: help Atlas save his wife and daughter, and escape Rapture. As the story continues, it gets more complex, with twists and turns at every corner. The player never truly knows what will happen next. When the player thinks one thing will happen, another does. The incredible writing helps captivate the player and sell the story. The mystery of Rapture makes them want more. The gameplay of Bioshock is simple. At its core, the player has to go through Rapture, killing splicers, citizens turned addicts, ready to kill for another hit of the wonder drug Adam. The player can use special abilities called plasmids, purchased with Adam. Plasmids use their own special ammo type called Eve, that can be found throughout the city and bought from vendors. Plasmids can be anything ranging from shooting electricity out of your hand, fire, bees, or anything. Different guns are also used to deal with splicers, as well as another enemy type. The Big Daddy. The Big Daddy is a hulking beast inside of a scuba suit protecting little sisters. Little girls turn into monsters, harvesting Adam from corpses. After killing a Big Daddy, the player is met with a moral choice: harvest the little sister to get all her Adam, killing her in the process, or save her, gaining less Adam but setting her free. The player's choices affect the game's ending. The player can also take photographs of enemies to study them and deal more damage. At its core, the gameplay of Bioshock is fun and strategic, making the player conserve their resources and money. Bioshock gameplay won over the hearts of gamers everywhere, and continues to do so to this day.
Look, Daddy, it's you. Let's go out to play, Daddy.
Bioshock 2 opens on a pre-rendered cutscene from a Big Daddy's perspective. He grabs his little sister, harvests some Adam, and is jumped by a mob of goons. He takes care of them before being hit with a hypnotized plasmid. During this state, a woman named Sophia Lamb appears, taking the little sister. Sophia Lamb takes advantage of the hypnotized state and makes the Big Daddy shoot himself.
Understand? Her name is Eleanor, and she is mine. Now, kneel, please. Remove your helmet. Now, take the pistol. Place it against your head. Fire.
The opening is gripping and powerful, but the story is unable to stay as captivating as it goes on. It always stays flat and never has any major twists or turns that occur throughout the course of the game. The story is always, we need to get to Eleanor, and Bioshock 2 suffers because of this. The only mystery to be solved this time around is the mystery of how the Big Daddy came back to life. That lost sense of mystery takes a major toll on the story, and the game is unable to recover. The gameplay of Bioshock 2 is, in many ways, arguably better than the original game. Instead of having to switch between guns and plasmids, the player can dual wield them. Plasmids in one hand and a gun in the other. The camera also receives some changes. Instead of taking photos of enemies in combat, the player videos themselves fighting the enemy. Aside from those changes, combat is the same. This time around, the player can choose to adopt a little sister to harvest Adam. The player must protect them, but can still choose to either save or harvest them. A new enemy type is introduced, called the Big Sister.
Big sister is coming now.
The Big Sister appears to fight the player after all little sisters are dealt with. Bioshock 2's gameplay only adds on to the original game. Little to nothing is removed from the first, and it's one thing that people need to acknowledge when discussing this game. The differences between the games are mainly gameplay with the new mechanics introduced in Bioshock 2. The story differences are major. Bioshock is a fantastic narrative that constantly changes. The goals of the characters and the player change over time. Bioshock 2 is much simpler to its own detriment. There's a few bumps in the road, but the goal is always the same. Find Eleanor. The twists in Bioshock's story help keep things surprising and engaging. Bioshock 2's twists, while surprising, do little to add to the story or to the goals of the player. Bioshock 2's story is less interesting and has less development compared to the first. Narratively speaking, Bioshock 2 is a worse product. Bioshock has gone down as one of the greatest games ever made, while Bioshock 2 lives in infamy for its story. Bioshock 2 has better gameplay than the first, but the story turned off so many players and soured the name of the game. While Bioshock 2 may never receive the same love and affection the first game gets, it will always have a soft spot in the hearts of many as the underrated sequel to one of the greatest games ever made.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sail